Welcome, brothers, to Competitive List Breakdown. This is from Alex Dugmore, and it is a third place finish at the Lakes of Blood tournament that was recently held in New Zealand. So let's dive in, let's analyse the list, let's talk about strengths, weaknesses, and then finally we're going to score it. Welcome back to my regular viewers, and if you are new here, then please consider subscribing. We do various Blood Angels content every week. So, this list is a Patrol and a Vanguard list, which is something that I've been running myself now for a little while. I think it's fairly strong, so let's dive into it and see how it performs in a tournament setting. So let's get into this Patrol list. And the list begins with essentially 2 Heroes of the Chapter and 2 Relics of the Chapter. So when we add on our Vanguard attachment as well, we're looking to spend about 7 of our CP at the very beginning. The list begins with 2 Company Veterans. We then have our Chapter Master, who is the Artisan of War, Mastercrafted Weapon, and he is using essentially a pair of Lightning Claws. He also has Rites of War and Visage of Death, so we have paid another CP to give him Angel's Exemplar. We then have our Sanguinary Priest, 135 points, who has the Teeth of Terra, the Selfless Healer, very standard Sanguinary Priest, obviously the jump pack as well. For troops, we have our 5 Incursors. For elites, we have 5 Death Company, all with jump packs and Thunderhammers, so a bit of a change up here in the Death Company. For first attack, we've got 4 Plasma and Scepters, and then for heavy support, we have essentially 2 squads of Eradicators, 2 Melt Rifles, and a Multi-Melta in both squads. So Patrol Detachment comes in at 1,145 points. So let's next look at the Vanguard Detachment. So for the Vanguard Detachment, we start with a Librarian with a jump pack. He is rocking 3 Sanguinary Discipline powers, that's Unleash Rage, Blood Boil, and Wings of Sanguinius. And he also has Psychic Mastery to give him +1 to those psychic tests, and then Tomb of Malachor to take Null Zone from the Space Marine Librarius discipline. For elites, we have 3 5-man squads of Sanguinary Guard, all with bolt guns and swords. We have 5 Vanguard Veterans with Lightning Claws and Storm Shields that we've talked about a few times on this channel. And then for heavy support, we have that 1 Whirlwind with a Castellan Launcher, so the Vanguard comes in at 855 points for a total of 2,000. So having read over the list, I mean, my first thought is you've got your Chapter Master. You probably want to start him on the board, maybe give his rerolls to something like one of your Eradicator squads, maybe some Sanguinary Guards start on the board, maybe 1 squad in the Vanguard Veterans are in Deep Strike along with Inceptors. Push up towards the middle, you have your Whirlwind in the backfield to potentially just protect and hold what you have. The Incursors could be deployed aggressively, but they could hold the backfield as well. I guess your Death Company could Forlorn Fury if you wanted to, and then go after sort of like that turn 1 charge. You could daisy chain them, maybe, if you did start the Chapter Master on the board to give them Chapter Master rerolls, and potentially you could put them in the Assault Doctrine from the Sanguinary Priest. And then when your Deep Strike units arrive, you can do a lot of things. You could go after Relentless Assault secondaries, you could go after Oath of the Moment, holding the middle, maybe moving some Eradicators or something into the middle, protected by the Incursors. Engage on all fronts obviously seems like a good one for Blood Angels here as well. And the Veterans let you do something like Scramblers, or potentially Raise the Banners as well. So a good amount of secondaries that can be scored with this list, and I think this list applies like a good amount of pressure, right? Like every unit in the list seems strong. I guess that's the real value of taking the Patrol and Vanguard. Like, you don't get bogged down with too many troop choices. You just have those 1 squads of Incursors. How you use them is really up to you. But your Death Company are scary, your Vanguard Veteran are scary, and obviously your 15 Sanguinary Guard are pretty scary. And I guess using your terrain and jumping across the battlefield, you could probably get in a good position to set up multiple charges in turn 2 or 3. So let's dive into some of the strengths and weaknesses and strategies that I see in this list. So if we talk about strategies first, I mean, it's 3 strong HQ characters. They're all strong in the current meta. That's the Captain, the Librarian, and the Sanguinary Priest. It's got a lot of punchy fire support, this list. Like we have 12 Meltagun shots per turn from our Eradicators. We also have a good amount of Plasmas coming in. The Captain with the ability to add and remove Obsec. We have Null Zone and Unleash Rage for like good psychic options. We have a very bursty 5-man Thunderhammer Death Company squad. We have 15 Sanguinary Guard broken into 3 squads of 5, so I guess they can, split off and do what needs to be done. We have the 5 tanky Vanguard Veterans with the Lightning Claws, which we know are very strong in the current meta. And then also we have that Whirlwind to just remove Overwatch and guarantee that the enemy will fight last in whatever situation that they need to be in. So the strength of the list is a very solid Blood Angels elite focused army list, and I guess this is the reason to take the Vanguard, because you can ignore some of the troops that you may normally need to take and you can just focus on our strong elite units. It's got good psychic presence with cast and deny 2. It's got 500 points of meltas and plasmas. I usually say around 400 or 500 points of shooting is useful to balance a Blood Angels list. Well, this has bang on 500 points of very strong shooting. 2 of the plasmas on the Inceptors and Eradicators meltas are some of the strongest shooting that you can essentially bring at the moment. We also have that OBSEC addition and denial from our captain. We got plenty of close combat units to make that turn 3 swing and start getting some good damage rolls out of Savage Echoes. And I guess the company veterans are in there as well, who can be tactically used to perform some actions. They are very cheap if you want to strategic reserve them. And then, it's just got a very solid amount of shooting of high AP weapons as well. So the list does have a couple of weaknesses, and this was a 3rd place list, so I guess some players managed to exploit these weaknesses a little bit, and the weaknesses really are, there's no reroll charges in the list. It's not super important to have them, but it can help. It also starts with 5 CP, and I guess that's due to the Patrol and Vanguard attachment, so you kind of have to take that CP hit. And then it does have a lack of OBSEC units, so if you aren't making the kills that you need to be making around the board, then you're potentially getting out OBSEC'd in certain places. So if you're not aware, every Sunday at 4 PM UK time we actually do an army list show, where every week we look through 5 armies submitted to the channel from the community, and we basically run through them sort of in a similar analysis. We'll tell you the strengths and weaknesses, and we'll end up scoring you, as we're about to score this list, out of 50. So if that's something you're interested in, you can do that over on the community tab. But let's look at the final scoring for this list, and there's 5 key points that we break down. Number 1 is OBSEC / objective holding, and we've given it 7.5 out of 10, right? So we have only that one OBSEC choice, but we do a Visage of Death to essentially remove OBSEC from some enemies. We do have a Whirlwind that can sit in the backfield, so potentially in our cursors, our Whirlwind can sort of hold an objective or 2, and then we're committed in this list to fighting the enemy and getting them off objectives. And fighting the enemy and getting them off objectives is no bad thing, and I guess that leads right into the next point, which is sort of anti-infantry / horde effectiveness. So how good are we at getting those, chaff units off the objectives? And I think we have a good amount of firepower. We've got our Inceptors, we've got a decent amount of Sanguinary Guard there. I guess that would be 30 Angelus Bolters a turn. We got the Whirlwind with the Castellan launcher, and then obviously we have just a bunch of other closer combat weapons. So we should be able to clear out chaff units off objectives fairly easily. So we've said 8.5 here out of 10. We're looking then up against like anti-vehicle / monsters, like the big bads that we have to deal with. And we've said this list is like a 9.5 out of 10, right? There's a lot of Melt of Fire coming out of this list. And there's also essentially those 5 Death Company with 3 damage Thunderhammers. We also have the Inceptors that can sort of help out as well. And then potentially 75 attacks per turn from Sanguinary Guard swords. Combine that up with a Null Zone and you can just about kill anything. Like an 8-man squad of Sanguinary Guard usually overkill just about anything they get into. So having 15 Sanguinary Guard, if they're used right and they're positioned well, then these guys can do a lot of work. So I think really this list can take down a lot of the biggest threats on the battlefield. So we also score in mobility, and this list is really like a 9 out of 10 for mobility. The Eradicators obviously aren't mobile, then Cursors aren't, but they can use guerrilla tactics, and then our Veterans, there's just a 2-man unit, they don't need to be mobile, they're probably just maybe holding an objective or scoring something. So mobility is generally very good throughout the list. And then finally specialization. So specialization is a category that I've made up that I will penalise lists if I think they are too one-dimensional. So we've given it an 8.5 out of 10, and I've said that I do think maybe it's a little bit too many Eradicators for my liking. I kind of prefer the attack bikes. They are more mobile, they do fit a bit more with the Blood Angels sort of chapter identity, and point for point they're very, very similar. If you think about it this way, an attack bike gets 7 inches more movement, it gets 1 more wound, and it also gets like a bolt gun with rapid fire too, so you get 4 bolter shots per turn, and that's only 10 more points per model. So for me, those 10 points seem like they're valuable. I mean, especially if you're taking something like engage on all fronts and you need to move into board quadrants and stuff, the tap bikes can just provide a little bit more for my liking. They also have that fallback and shoot stratagem through Fade, I believe it's called, or Fire and Fade. So bikes for me just edge it. So I've said 8.5 out of 10 for specialisation. Everything else fits well with a Blood Angels army, and overall I kind of like this list. So I think this list is about a 43 out of 50, and I think the highest lists we usually see on, or the highest one we've ever seen was a tournament winning list, which was like 46.5. So anything 40 plus is going to be pretty strong. The points being marked away from it in OBSEC are maybe not a big deal against some lists, depending on, you know, how many things you're killing or how many things the enemy have that are OBSEC, but we have to score it down for that. And then obviously we had to score it down a little bit maybe on specialisation, and I just think that the bikes feel more Blood Angels than Eradicators. But I mean, Eradicators can do a job, and that sounds fine. So for me, if I was going to make a couple of changes to this list, our captain with the jump pack, I would probably put him on a bike. I think a captain on a bike right now in 9th edition can be amazing, and I don't know if you need both OBSEC denial and OBSEC adding. I feel like if you're denying OBSEC within 3 inches, then it's probably enough. You know, like you jump onto objective with that captain and some Sanguinary Guard, you would hope you would kill enough units to potentially flip it, and maybe that means that the captain can have a slightly more useful second trait there. So that's what I would do. And then, yeah, my final one is purely personal preference. I am not a huge fan of Inceptors. I roll too many ones with plasma dice. I think last week my Redemptor ended up causing 9 mortal wounds on himself with high power plasmas. So that just shows you what my dice rolls will do. So if this was my list, I'd probably switch out some of those Inceptors for Redemptor Dreadnoughts. And I will share the list that I'm running very soon, and I guess as I said, it is the Patrol and the Vanguard, and I guess you can see it live on the channel on the weekly live show, which is every Monday night at 7:30, but we also have a little graph here that shows the strengths and the weaknesses of this list. So this is actually part of a new playlist on the channel called Competitive List Breakdowns, and we do this every time we hear about a good tournament winning list or a good place from a Blood Angels list at a tournament. So you can now check that out in this playlist, and this is the 4th list in here now, and I plan to continue adding to it over the next indefinite amount of time. So thanks again for watching. If you did enjoy the video, or if you did get any value out of it, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel out so much, and I very much appreciate it. We will be back obviously every Friday with our tactics video, and we've got loads of other Blood Angels content coming up as well. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. By the blood are we made, brothers. Peace.